Hello all, my name's Daniel. Welcome to the Twisted Geek podcast, episode number 1. Stay tuned for future episodes because I'm going to be getting on a special guest to discuss their take in anime, what they collect, what they don't collect, if they like it or if they don't. So we're going to get a lot of different options, a lot of different opinions from a lot of different people, so stay tuned for the coming weeks for that. Currently, unfortunately, this setup doesn't actually hold my mic boom stand, doesn't fit on this desk very well, so in the moment I'm just going to hold it. I'm going to keep this nice and simple this week for the first episode. Just going to discuss straight away anime figures and merchandise. Talk a little bit about figures, general merchandise such as key rings, badges, stickers, and we'll just see where the conversation takes us. One of the biggest things that I do collect is anime figures, and that comes in 2 different formats. It is the standard prize figure style things from Band Presto or Sega or Good Smile Company, all this kind of thing, all the way down to FUNKO Pop vinyls and the anime versions of them, which are more of a, I guess, chibi kind of style look at them. I know not everyone's a huge fan of the FUNKO Pops. FUNKO Pops are normally when they first come out are about £10 each, so it is a nice affordable collectible option for people who don't have the extra cash to either spend on prize figures, scale figures, and some of them are just actually really cool. I think some of the FUNKO Pops in, especially the metallic versions, look awesome. Not the full chromy kind of metallic ones, but the ones that's got a metallic paint on them, they look really cool. Yes, FUNKO Pop does have some major issues since they are mass produced and they're quite cheap, unless you tend to get like convention ones, which are a more limited run, and the detail on them is basically they've taken a little more time painting them compared to some of the other ones. Because the mass produced ones, you do get a lot of paint issues. Normally in the hairline, you get loads of issues in the hairline, and you get scuff marks and little marks onto them, which does get annoying, but for £10 you can't really complain too much about that, because from there, if you want something a bit better, you move on up to the prize figures. Now there's essentially 2 kinds of prize figures in anime figure collecting. You have the standard one, which you normally get from, when you're in Japan, you get from like UFO catchers or the claw machines. They're the basic ones you get. Then you get from that, you have these other ones called Kuji prizes, where you go into a local shop, you pay whatever it is, I think they're from maybe 500 yen to 1,000 yen, something like that, per ticket. You pull out a ticket, you get a number on it, and from that, you get a letter from it, and that letter represents a certain prize. It could be a small little figure, or it could be like a towel or a pen or something like that, or a little mug, all the way up to the Kuji prize figures themselves. And the Kuji prize figures are a lot nicer than the standard prize figures. There's a lot more detail into them. You can tell the plastic's a lot nicer, the boxes are a lot nicer. Most time in them as well, they'll have an open panel box where you can actually see the figure inside, rather than just the full closed box, or the box itself has got a lot nicer artwork on it. The difference in these is, especially here in the UK, a prize figure on a sale you might get it for 20 quid. Standard price brand new, most places will be 30 to 35, whereas as a Kuji prize figure you're probably looking at about 55 to 60, maybe a little bit more in some places. And from then, if you do actually have the spare cash and you have the money to spend, or you're able to save up, and unlike me where I start saving up, want to get a scale figure and go, oh that one's nice, oh that one's nice, and end up buying multiple prize figures instead because I can't keep the money to one side properly. Basically, scale figures can start around about the £80 to £100 mark depending on where you go, and from there they just skyrocket. They can go upwards of thousands of pounds. But as you go up in them prices, not only just the size of them, but also the level of detail, not just in the moulding and the little like armour or clothing or hair clips and rings on the characters, but just down to the paint job. The paint jobs are normally immaculate. They are really cool. A lot of effort and detail put into the paint job, into the box, into all the artwork going on to it. And if you get one of these, I highly recommend you put it in a glass shelving unit. Something that way you can nicely see it, but it's hidden behind a door, where one, dust isn't going to get on it as much, because dusting can be a massive problem. I have, looking at my shelf there, something around about the 50 area for figures. Some are behind glass units, like doors on the Calyx unit, some aren't, and they can take a long time to clean. I try to clean them once every about 2 months or so, because it's more or less a full day's work just going through and dusting them all down, wiping the bench down on top of them. It is a lot of work, and when you get these more expensive scale figures, you definitely want to do that more often if you haven't got them behind a glass case, because the dust over time, it takes a long time though, can start damaging it depending on the kind of dust you have in the area, how thick the dust gets onto it. It can make them look dull and just off colour. Of course, one thing you definitely don't want to do is put any of these kind of figures in direct sunlight. So if you've got a window that shines onto them, I would definitely think about changing that straight away, because over time, depending on how sunny it is and where you're at, that will massively bleach the figures. I had one on a shelf which was just half the hair was hanging over and just catching the light, and within a few weeks that's when I noticed it and noticed that the fade in the hair. Quite disappointed, but luckily it was only a prize figure, so it wasn't that big of a deal. It could have been a lot worse. I would have been very annoyed if it was a scale figure, but I'm hoping to get one of them one day, if I can put the money to one side long enough and actually get them and not go out and just randomly buy more prize figures or manga. But that kind of takes one nicely on to the other styles of merchandise you can get. Most of the kind of ones that I've had have been stuff like wallets, mugs, key rings, badges, stickers, lanyards, plushies. Plushies is the big one. You get loads of different kinds of plushies, from little tiny things to huge enormous things. I've got a few Demon Slayer ones, a couple of the really tiny My Hero Academia ones, got more than that, and I've got Geo, which is from Demon Slayer, as well as Rem and Ram, I do believe I've got from ReZero. And plushies aren't too bad, not really my full cup of tea, but I don't mind them nonetheless. Definitely couldn't have any of the huge ones. I did get about a foot and a half style one of Rem, and just give that to my daughter. She loves it. She cuddles at the bed sometimes, so it always comes in handy that way. On top of that, you've also got kind of merchandise such as t-shirts, caps. I've got a few t-shirts now. Don't have any caps. Most of the caps I see are the flat peak snapbacks, where I prefer the curved baseball cap ones, and some of the ones I've seen of them are just like very basic. There's not very much stand out in them. For about £20-30, I'm not going to really pay for that for something which has only got a tiny logo on it, compared to some of these other ones which have got nice full embroidery going all over. One thing I definitely did forget to mention there in the figures is Q poskets. You get Q poskets and Q posket minis. The minis are maybe 2 or 3 inches maximum, and then maybe 2 inches, and then the normal Q poskets are Q poskets are about 4 inches, and I was very unsure about them for a long time. I've now got a couple of the minis which are nice. They're quite detailed into them, and I've got one of the normal standard size ones, which is Rem from ReZero. I got that on an auction on eBay from a Japanese seller, and when it turned up, I was actually quite shocked. The face is actually really nice. The eyes are highly detailed, and they've got a nice gloss to them, so they're not just like a water pasted on transfer like some of the prize figures are. You can tell there's actually a lot more detail and effort put into these. The downside of them, for being only that small, more or less the size of a Funko Pop, is that they are roughly about £25, so they're pretty close to a prize figure kind of price range. You can get them second hand if you're lucky. You get them for about £15. I'm definitely looking to get some more of them for the collection, because they're actually just really nice. I wasn't expecting them to be that kind of nice, because they've got the full huge chibi kind of looking face with the huge eyes on them, and then the more proportionate body. But I think it's definitely one to look into to get a few more from. And I guess the thing that comes down to after that is it worth it? And what's worth it for you? For me personally, I say prize figures are absolutely ideal. Get paid at the end of the month. I can normally have about £30 free to get a new figure to add to the collection. Whereas if I wanted a scale figure, I'd be saving up for maybe 3-4 months, and I'd have to hope I'd get a pre-order in time, especially if it's a new figure coming out, or try to get it on the second-hand market, which will normally actually bump up the price. Possibly get out of places like Ami if you get lucky, or Mandaraki. But on top of that, on them kind of style things, you would have the extra postage charge, with potentially even getting import fees when it comes into the country. Which is why a lot of times, so that would actually put me off scale figures, as much as, like I say, I openly admit they're amazing. Detail is awesome on them. I do love them. But prize figures are just so more easy to get hold of, and if you get the right ones, they just look stunning. My X-Chronicle ones from Sword Art Online, I can put the link down in the description below for the videos for that. Especially if you look at Sinon, the detail was just immense. For a £30 figure, you wouldn't really expect that kind of normal level of detail in them, and the rest of the figures just follow suit. I got the full set in the end, and to me it was well worth it. And of course I don't really condone these other kind of places where you can essentially get bootleg figures from. They aren't great, the paint quality is normally pretty terrible. The detail, the flimsiness of the products, again I'll link some down below, ones I got from wish.com and from AliExpress. But at the same time, if you are on a budget and you don't have that £30 to spend on a prize figure, getting one of these for 4, 5, 6 quid is perfectly understandable. I have nothing against people getting them. They don't look as good, but if you still just want a character from your favourite series on your shelves just to look at and just say I've got something like that just to add to the collection because you don't have that cash for it, perfectly acceptable, nothing wrong with it at all. I've had a few people say in the past I don't support people who do stuff like this, don't support the bootleggers, but when you don't have the money, it's the best way to go. I think the worst ones for that is normally Funko Pops, because with Funko Pops on the first coming out being about £10, with the special editions normally about 15, and for the 4-inch ones, of course, if you get a 6-inch one or a 10-inch one, they're a lot more expensive. But a lot of them ones normally come out on these other kind of international places, such as, for example, AliExpress. You can get them on there, and the ones I've purchased myself, not saying that all of them are, but the ones that I've purchased have actually been fake, and the price is roughly about the same as getting a real one anyway. So this is where you've got to be careful when our places have sold out and you go to one of these kind of places, they're more likely not going to be real, unfortunately. So you've got to be very careful of that. Again, I can link a video down below in the description to help you spot the difference between a real and a fake Funko. But just know from them kind of websites, so you know the websites I'm talking about, that they're not always going to be real. So that is a risk you'll have to take. But if that's the only place, again, if that's the only place that's got them and you don't mind the option of them possibly being fake, well, go for it. There's no harm in it all. I've still got my Jill Valentine and Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil 3. They're not great, but getting Jill by herself normally is about £40 plus, which I'm not willing to pay for a Funko Pop. And Leon Kennedy's about the same. I'm happy to have them fakes there. I used them for a video to show the difference between the fakes and the reals. But they still sit proudly up on the shelf to the side here, and I'm always happy to have them there. Still a nostalgia kind of thing for a game I love to play. Detail wise, sometimes they're negotiable. Most of the issues you find on these ones are in the boxes. The Funko Pop itself, other than colour issues, is normally there or thereabouts. So from a distance, when someone walks and looks at your collection, they wouldn't know the difference between it. And of course, when we talk about figure collection and anime merchandise, we've also got to think about space. Space can be a massive issue. When I first probably started getting into collecting again with me anime figures, merchandise and manga, which was not long before I started this channel, which was back in July 2000. It was during lockdown when everyone you're at home, you weren't driving as much, you weren't going out and about because you weren't allowed, so you were actually saving little bits of cash. And saved all the cash up and found this place called Leanne's Anime, and from there she'd done anime mystery boxes, figures, merchandise, the whole lot, and that just sparked off my love for collecting figures again, and one of the reasons why I started the channel. So I can show all these figures, these amazing merchandise and everything you can get regarding anime and manga, and as well as give you some helpful tips such as finding fake ones, and just try to entertain you in my weird wacky way of doing some videos which you'll see in some ones coming up. But space can be an issue. When I first started, I only had like half a Calyx unit box. There's maybe 2 of them sections on a Calyx unit which were used up. Now I've got a full Calyx unit that side with 2 bookshelves on top of it, and figures are all over that. I've got a 2x4 Calyx unit that side, which is just mainly the top, which is mine. In this corner here, I have shelves put up which got loads of Funko Pops on it, and these also go across on the back of us a little bit, And underneath, which I've got underneath this here, I've got a couple more of the 2x2 collection units, and they've got little bits on. So yeah, the collection has grown quite a lot. Like my manga went from maybe 20-30 volumes over 200 now. Figures went from about 10 to the 50 roughly they are now. Funko Pops from about 3 to 106 or so now. So yeah, it takes up a lot of space, so you do have to try to cater for that as much as you can. I'm constantly trying to rearrange things in order to make more space, but still try and make it look nice. Basically, currently my setup here is in the dining room, so I've still got to make space so we can actually use it as a dining room, which can be difficult because I still want to buy stuff, I still want to get more, I still want to add the collection, and just run massively out of space. So you do have to take that in consideration, because you run out of space and nothing else you can do with them, pile them up the side. And I've had it before on my desk behind where I've had them just all piled up, and it just looks horrendous. It just doesn't look nice. You don't feel comfortable at your setup. You feel cluttered and basically restricted, as like claustrophobic really, with everything like that far around you and closing in on you. So I have spread things out a little bit, added a few bits here and there just to try to make it more manageable. But I've know also, based on that, I have had to reduce down the spending a little bit, because there's no point of buying something if I've got nowhere to put it. And I've had people ask us before as well what kind of future figures I'll be looking at, what else I'll be adding to the collection later on down the line. To me, like I mentioned earlier, some more cube poskets. I'm definitely going to be looking into some of them. People are constantly suggesting Nendroids to us. For me, Nendroids, even though they look awesome, I like the different poses they can put into. It comes down to all them extra parts and storing them in certain places. I like having the figures just on show, and when they're on show, that's everything there. I don't have to worry about other little bits here and there. There is some nice, that time I got reincarnated as a slime, which I'll put them on screen here or here to show you, which I'm looking forward to getting hold of. They're just some prize figures which are out now. There's more Demon Slayer ones coming out. I think there's also a Nafumi, possibly even a Raftalia from the Rise of the Shield hero. I've only seen that on a pre-order on Ami at the moment, but they were about £50 plus the postage, and on top of it, maybe about 60 or so. So I've not looked at that yet. We're going to keep an eye on Leon's anime, see if she gets a hold of something like that. Other than that, I don't think so. There was a ReZero one I wanted a little while back. It was just at the end of lockdown from Forbidden Planet. It was, I think it was about £60-65. It was like a half bust. It was like 1/7 scale or something like that. It was really nice. I had it on pre-order for a while, and the pre-order, because of COVID, and it got pushed back and pushed back and pushed back to a point that it was pushed back for so long. The money I had for it, I had to use elsewhere, so I had to cancel the pre-order. It's a shame, but other things get you in life. You can't just always sit there and hope for that, because if something else comes along, you can't just leave that cash. To me personally, you can't just have that cash lying there for essentially your hobby, which is nothing wrong with having your hobbies and spending money on your hobbies, but when you've got more pressing issues, like say for example your cooker breaks down or your washing machine breaks down, what's more important, spend that money on your pre-order or spend that money getting your appliances fixed? Me personally, since I've got a young daughter, it's always going to go on the appliances to get them all fixed and sorted so we can use them for her. But I guess that kind of also leads down to another topic of conversation which I've dealt with before, and I've seen people on Instagram, Facebook, even on YouTube and Twitter, because Twitter can be hellish at some points, people collecting figures, anime figures and merchandise. I know it's coming a lot more mainstream at the moment. People are coming a lot more acceptable. People buy manga and anime figures and collecting them, but there still is a lot of haters out there, a lot of people who don't quite understand it. I'm guessing at the moment it's just this case of just don't understand it. They see it as being for kids, basically that you have to grow up, you should get rid of them, you shouldn't have them, you're a grown adult man, woman, whatever it's going to be. Me personally, it can be hard when someone's kind of like really going at you, but you have to kind of let it slide a little bit. I did see this one guy on, it was from Facebook Marketplace, I actually caught it, and he said he was getting so sick of people bullying him for it all. Even though he loved anime, he loved collecting, he was getting so sick of everyone coming around, family, friends, all that, just essentially abusing him about it and bullying him all about it, that he just completely sold his whole collection and just got rid of the whole lot, which is quite sad really, and it's really, really unfair. stuff like that shouldn't actually happen. If you love doing something, you shouldn't really let people dictate what else you do with that. But I can understand that the constant going on can really grind a person down. And if they've got no one there to support, or someone else who might like that as well, or a community there to help, then it is very easy for you just to go downhill, get stressed, and just let it all go, and just try to get happier with not getting all the grief. But then I guess at all the same time, it would actually make you unhappy. It's a difficult one, really. You've got to just be you. You do you, no matter what anyone else says. You're not hurting anyone or harming anyone. What difference does it make? It's like this whole thing that you hear about what's your guilty pleasure? Whether it be like a certain song or a certain genre of movie or this or that or whatever it's going to be. To me personally, I don't think there's anything such thing as a guilty pleasure. There isn't. Why feel guilty about something you enjoy? It makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. I think I've even used the term myself in the past, but when thinking about it, why should I feel guilty if I like anime or like collecting figures, or at the moment kind of thing, like that my daughter paints me nails? She's at that age and she wants to do stuff like that. It's like, why feel guilty about something like that? It makes her happy, so who's to complain? But enough for my solo ranting. I think we'll leave it there for now. But next week I should hopefully have a special guest coming on. We're going to discuss isekai anime and the random tropes and weird things that happen in it, and much more. My name's been Daniel. This has been the Twisted Geek podcast. Hope you have an awesome week. Cheers for listening.